Welcome to the Church Sound Podcast,
part of the Repurpose Network,
where kingdom culture, real life, and technology intersect. I'm your host, Prentiss Thompson, and what we do, we talk to real people, pastors, leaders, engineers, tech people, manufacturers, worship leaders, all about church, technology, and provide solutions for a successful Sunday morning service. You ready? It's time to take a ride. Let's go. Yes, welcome to another edition of the Church Sound Podcast. I am your humble host, Mr. Prentiss Thompson. Woo! Thank you for the applause. I know I say it every week, even though I do it myself. I'm trying to make myself feel better about myself. So glad you guys have decided to join us today on the Church Sound Podcast. What we do, we try to provide information to make your church service, 3 words, amazing. The information that I share is from personal experience and things I've learned over the years, mixing front of house in many churches. So it started out with just me sharing. I had a co-host and we would share. And I'm actually, quiet as kept, looking for another co-host. So if you're interested, email us, the Church Sound Podcast at Gmail, and let's talk. Anyway, I don't know. That's kind of jumped in my spirit. I guess whoever is watching this has never happened. Whoever is watching this, you may be the person. So there it is. Why don't you like, subscribe, review, and share? And if you are watching on YouTube, make sure that you not only get notified, subscribe, but get notified. I got that all mixed up. Who cares? So today, I want to talk about something that I don't hear many people talk about. And like I always say, I always try to make the information that I give be able to immediately be applied. It means it has to be simple, because I gear everything towards small churches. But small churches is where it begins, right? Because every big church starts out as a small church, and you grow as you grow, right? So me and my wife have a little grandbaby, adopted grandbaby, because she ain't adopted no more. She family. She's 2. And we've had the pleasure of keeping her during the day while her parents work. And because I work from home, this is my home studio I'm recording in, and my wife is retired. So we had the pleasure of starting to watch her when she was about 6 months. She is a precocious 2-year-old now, and everywhere, and all over my stuff. You know, I have to constantly check my settings because she'll be in here hitting buttons and all that type of stuff. And it got me to thinking about language, how we learn language, and how it is important to communication. So I marry that with audio in the sense that language is learned. We don't learn the complexities of our language in audio, video, multimedia, whatever field you're in the church or period, without listening. So the topic today is like learning the language of your craft. Learning the language of your craft. Being fluid in audio, that's a journey. It's not a download. It kind of mirrors what I've been saying about how a child learns to speak. They learn by listening. They learn by practicing. They learn by feeling. They learn by repeating. And as audio techs in the ministry, we must be fluent in the language of sound to serve the church with clarity, with intention, and also with spiritual sensitivity. So every day, my little one will come up to me and say things that I don't understand. She's repeating something that she heard. She's fumbling. It's not clear. And then all of a sudden, miraculously, this sound will turn into something that I can recognize. It turns into speech. It turns into a meaning. And that is the same process every church engineer must go through. Whether you're behind the board on Sunday, whether you're editing a sermon during the midweek, you're learning a language. You're learning a language of tone, a language of balance, of phase, of space, of emotion, of ministry. You're learning a language. So I want to take a dive. It's not a deep dive, it's a dive to explore 5 principles that will help you be fluent in the language of audio. But I'm going to marry it through the eyes of a child. Eyes and ears. First point is this. Audio fluency begins with deep listening. I've said this in a previous podcast. Engineers, listen to music. See, before you speak with your hands, you have to learn with your ears. Before you're hitting buttons and faders, that's called speaking with your hands. You have to learn with your ears. When a child is learning to talk, they spend months doing one thing, listening. They're absorbing language, how words sound, when they're used, the tone behind them. They're learning that up sounds different from down. That no, which I'm learning very quickly, carries more weight than maybe. No to a 2-year-old is the first go-to. Everything's no. In audio, listening is your first language teacher. Before you EQ a vocal, before you add a compressor on a kick drum, you need to know what right sounds like. So this is what you have to do. You have to listen intentionally. Study worship mixes from the churches, the bigger churches. Like, study them. Study music. Compare your recordings with commercial mixes. Sit in front of the board, solo the channels. Make sure you can hear everything, how everything behaves, because you just don't hear, you analyze. Because in audio, tone is language. And fluency starts with being familiar, having your ear be familiar. My second point is this. Learn the vocabulary of sound. Learn the vocabulary of sound, one control at a time. See, kids start with words, not sentences. Simple words. Milk, go, no, stop. It's the basic words before they become sentences. So you have to know what gain is. You have to know what EQ is. You have to know what compression means. You have to know what high pass and low pass filter means. You have to understand what routing and aux sends begin, what they mean. You don't need to master Dante and multi-bus compression or studio imaging on day one. Instead, start with the simple stuff like What does this knob do? This frequency knob actually do? What happens when I change the attack on a compressor? What is pre-fader? What is post-fader? How does that affect my monitors? So when someone says, is this pre-fader or post-fader, do you know what that means? See, that's all language. That's language. As an engineer, we know what that means. Every fader, think of it this way. Every fader is a word. And you have to learn what each one says. So you can start building sentences. You know, sentences of sound. Sentences of a mix. Sentences of excellence. A lot of times we want to jump into deep. I'll give you a great story. I was mixing at a church, very big church, 12,000 member church, and I was the head engineer there. And a lot of times people think they can only minister from this one position. Think of it as a pastor or a speaker or a teacher, right? People think they only can do ministry from the pulpit. And a lot of times in audio ministry, they think they can only do ministry from the mixing position. But there's other positions that work, that make the mix position work, right? Well, at the time, the console was in the balcony, which I hate. I hate mixing in the sky. That's what I call it, mixing in the sky. Hate, detest. I want to be on the ground. So at this time, before they moved the mixing console, they had it in the sky. And how I would train the engineers, I would test to see where their ears were. Because words start with listening. Then they built into sentences, right? So because we had a matrix mix that was completely different from front of house under the balcony, which is a different story. I don't know why, but anyway. So I would send my new engineers down there, and I would purposely turn the snare up extra loud under the balcony. And then I would tell them to go down there. So what I want you to do is just listen. Just listen. And then I'm going to ask you what you hear. I didn't tell them that I would do that. And then I would radio down and say, hey, how's it sound down there? What do you hear? If they said it sounds great, and I know the snare drum is slapping, then I know I got to find another business for him. He could be a great lighting person. He could be a great pro presenter person. He could be a good person running behind the stage. It's, a stagehand. Because every position is important. If I had an engineer that said, man, that snare is loud. He has words that I can turn into sentences. Which brings me to my third point. Mimic the pros until you become your own voice. See, children repeat what they hear until they can express what they feel. See, children will often mimic what they hear. They don't understand it yet. They don't understand grammar or syntax yet. They're just repeating and imitating and actually refining what they hear. It's the same thing in audio. As a matter of fact, it's the same thing in anything that you endeavor to do. You have to mimic. I remember being a young producer and listening to records and going like, I don't understand how they did that. You have to listen to, I see this all the time to engineers. You have to listen to music. Another good example, I have a ton of them. Showing a young man how to mix. His first thing he said to me was, I don't know this song. Well, and I learned this the hard way because I'm not a person that listens to a lot of worship music. I don't. I have to prepare myself for mixing, but he didn't know the song at all. He didn't know the parts, but I've mixed the song enough that I know, right? You have to listen to the church or service that is beyond what you do at this present moment. What do I mean by that? Listen to churches that you admire. Maverick City, Elevation Worship. It's plenty of churches out there that have great mixes. Try to copy what they do. You know what the best place to do? YouTube University, which you're probably watching right now if you're watching. AB your results. Listen to the vocal blends of different ministries. See, this is what happens. And this is where people get it mixed up. And we'll say it like that. Practice isn't imitation for imitation's sake. Practice is not imitation for imitation's sake. It's muscle memory training. Eventually, these settings will become intuitive. And you'll begin to make decisions, not copying, but by knowing what it should sound like. You'll know and understand the why. And after a while, you learn your own language, which brings me to number 4. Make mistakes. A lot of them. The caveat is to learn the language as you go. See, a lot of time kids do, and we do as adults as well, mispronounce words. I just did that. Mispronounce words. This is the proof that you're trying to speak, right? A child learning to say things wrong all the time. They're learning every mistake to get to the word. Every mistake is a stepping stone, right? Every mistake is a stepping stone to the language. If you don't understand what gain is, and if you ask me, hey, where's the gain at? I'll turn the gain down. I know where it's at because I know what gain is. But if I don't know what gain is, I'm not fluent in the language, how can I translate that to what I'm trying to do? See, we make mistakes to learn. See, I always say this a lot, is that you don't lose when you fall. You learn when you fall. Now, if you choose not to learn and repeat the process, guess what's going to happen? You're going to repeat the process until the learning turns into an action. So, for instance, you're going to make mistakes. Your EQ is too harsh. You over compress things. You forget to add high pass on the piano. Right? You forget to route something wrong. You forget, like even this past Sunday, I inadvertently left the reverb channel open during a baptism. I was like, oh, someone said, hey, reverb. Oh, language, sentences. I know what reverb is. I know where it is. I know how to turn that language into a sentence and go, yes, here is the action behind it to reach the goal of turning off the reverb for that particular microphone. Here's my last point. Point number 5. How do kids learn to speak? They speak language daily, because this is what happens. Consistency builds confidence. Fluency doesn't come from theory. It comes from talking every day. A child learns to speak every day. He doesn't learn to speak from over the weekend. It's daily repetition. It's speaking. It's failing. It's being corrected. And guess what? Then trying again. And then getting up and doing it again. See, as an engineer, the same thing applies. You grow not by watching a single YouTube tutorial. You learn by mixing every week. Action, or what I call getting dirty. Mixing a youth group. Tweaking the pastor's mic in rehearsal. Re-EQing your own mixes for practice. Volunteering for midweek services or streaming. See, every time you touch a fader, every time you touch a knob, every time you troubleshoot hum, every time you learn the language, you're learning to make sentences. And one day you realize you're not guessing anymore and your language is fluid. Your language is fluid. Now you're able to have a conversation. You ever talk to musicians and they start talking in numbers? I'm a musician, so we do that. We'll say, hey, we're going to the 1, to the 3, to the 5, or to the 7. If you don't understand music, you think it's just numbers, but we're talking in scales. It makes no sense if I tell a layperson, hey, listen, bring 2K out of that vocal and boost it at 200. To an engineer, we know that means frequency. So this is what you have to do. Speak it daily. Let me give you a bonus. It's found in Hebrews 13, 20, and 21. Now may the peace of God equip you with everything good for doing his will. See, God didn't call you to the audio ministry to leave you unequipped. He placed his passion and position in your hands. And now he's inviting you to grow in it. Learning the language of your craft is part of your spiritual stewardship. As you grow technical, as you grow the fluency of the language, you grow your ability to translate the sound that you hear into a presence that God can use. Because your mix is clearer, because you're focused, because you're intentional. It's because you're giving room for the voice of God in sound. You're using your gift to heaven. How do I know that? Because every button we press, every fader we move, every knob we turn is used to bring souls to the kingdom. I had the pleasure of mixing, probably when I'm recording this, it's probably about a month ago. I had the pleasure of mixing a service where they had spontaneous baptisms. And on this day, they had, I want to say, 15 people scheduled for baptism and service. There's 4 services, so it was maybe 5 to 8 per service, something like that. But doing these spontaneous baptisms, people that heard the word, responded to the word, How did they hear them? They heard it through the speakers that I was using to amplify the voice of the pastor to the souls, to the ears of the person, to their ears, to their heart. And 40 people in separate services spontaneously got baptized. So do not take what you do for granted. And I always strive to be excellent. I tell engineers this all the time. If something sounds good, make it gooder, not a word. Make it gooder. If it's that, okay, let's make it great. Okay, it's great. Okay, let's make it excellent. Okay, it's excellent. Okay, let's make it exceptional. Okay, if it's exceptional, let's make it over and above. If it's, you're always trying to not only troubleshoot, but make it better. You don't have to be fluid today. You just have to be faithful. You don't have to be fluid today. You have to be faithful to the process. Keep learning the language of your craft. One word, one mix, one Sunday at a time. So, what I want you to do, send this to your team. Send this to your pastor. Send this to your leaders. Matter of fact, if you're on a YouTube channel, it's tons of content there. Watch it. If you are listening, we have over 300 episodes. Listen to them. Find the one that it fits you. Listen and grow. Like, subscribe, review, and share. As I always say, keep God first in everything you do. And I'll see you next time on the Church Sound Podcast.